Good morning. As you know, we are doing this on a platform called Zoho, which is a company founded by an IIT Madras alumnus who has offered the service of Zoho pro bono to the IIT Madras Alumni Association. So we need to thank Zoho for offering us this service. Let me thank Lata Rakesh and the others at IIT Madras Alumni Association for putting this whole series of webinars together. So let me start with two interesting stories around brand promise. Yesterday's session was largely on FMCG and writing the brand positioning statement, how a brand is a story. All that is true, all that is valid, even in the case of a B2B brand. But today we're going to be talking more of B2B brand, more of service brand. So let me start with a story from a book called Moments of Truth by Jan Carlson. Jan Carlson took over an airline called Scandinavian Airline System, which was in really bad shape. But he managed to turn the whole airline around by what he did was empowering the frontline staff. So there's a story in the book about how a passenger reaches the Schiphol airport in Stockholm. The passenger comes, opens his briefcase, takes out his ticket. Those days you had the printed ticket. He takes out the ticket, and then he tells the staff that, he has forgotten his passport at the hotel. So what will the frontline staff do? The flight is supposed to take off in literally 90 minutes or so. Now, he had no time to go back and bring the passport. So what will the frontline staff do? So he says this is called the moment of truth. What does your frontline staff do when your customer is facing a challenge? So in this case, the frontline staff said, "Sir, don't worry. Please sit here, have a cup of coffee. Let me figure out what I can do." She calls the hotel and tells the so-and-so is checked out and he seems to have forgotten his passport in his room. The hotel says, "Yes, we have it in the reception. What do you want us to do?" So she says, "Do you have a secure mobile courier who can get the passport to the airport in the next 30 minutes? The hotel says, "Yes, we can arrange for that." So she says, "Look, can you arrange for that? And I'll have the $25 which I have to pay the mobile courier. I'll wait at the curbside. I'll pay him." So the mobile courier comes. The passport reaches the airport in 30 minutes. The girl from the check-in counter goes, picks up the passport, and tells our passenger, "You're on. The passport has come. We're checking you through." Now, what does it take for a frontline staff to do this on their own? I mean, there is no authorization of $25. There is no some form to be signed in triplicate. And he says you need to empower your frontline staff to do this so that they provide service to your customers when they are in a challenge. So let me tell you my own story, which is again pretty interesting. So I was at an auto show in Delhi some years ago, and those days I used to handle the Tata Motors business. We were launching a new Tata vehicle. I think it was the Tata Manza, and it was parked there. It was, I think, a day before the official launch. So there was journalists were allowed inside, but they're not allowed to take photographs. So there was a girl who had come in and she asked, "Is a new car?" I said, "Yeah, there's a new car." So she says, "You're with Tata?" I said, "No, I'm with the agency." So she said, "What is the price of this car?" So I said, "Look, ma'am, only the Tata people know the price of this car." So she said, No. You're with the agency. You must be knowing the price of the car. Why can't you tell me?" So I said, "Look, tomorrow there is a launch conference. In the launch conference, the price will be announced. So you can find out the price tomorrow." So she said, No. I need to know it today. Can you tell me? And she kept after me for almost 10 minutes. I finally got irritated. I said, "Look, don't you have anything better to do? Why are you irritating me like this?" So she said, "No, sir, I'm not irritating you, sir. But, if I don't take out the news early and put it on my television channel, which was Aaj Tak, हमारे channel सबसे तेज कैसे बनेगी?" So the fact is, this girl probably had spent less than 2 years in the television channel, but she understood what was the ethos of that television channel, which is that we need to bring out the news before anyone else. And therefore, the tagline, Satyate. You go back to what we discussed yesterday in terms of positioning. The positioning, their single-minded promise is we bring you the news before anyone else. And the tagline was Sabse. And Aaj Tak is a highly successful Hindi channel. It continues to be the #1 channel because they've gone and invested more in foot soldiers, more in people on the ground who can gather information rather than glitzy studios and fancy people on television. So moving on, today we're going to be talking about a little bit on branding fundamentals, not much, and then we'll look at some good brand stories, some from which I was also involved in. We'll also then look at one different brand story from abroad, and then we'll take away 5 lessons on living the brand. I think yesterday, a lot of you did ask questions. I didn't have enough time to answer all the questions. A lot of you did ask questions about, how is B2B marketing different? Is branding different in B2B? Hopefully, we will try and clarify some of that today. Coming back, Philip Kotler said branding is marketing. And of course, some of you may remember that we had a very long definition of a brand, which is name, symbol, combination, identify goods, differentiated from your company to that of your competitor. Or the other one, which I prefer is that brand name is nothing more than a name that tells a story. Okay, so when it comes to B2B marketing, the important thing is you need to align internal codes of your company with the external codes. It is not possible for you to do something externally, but internally you run a very different company, because a service company, a B2B service company brand is the thousands of people who work for that company. So you cannot have them mouthing something else, whereas say something else in your communication out to the market. So we start with an interesting, and start with a quote. With Rick Jacobs says that aligning the brand on the inside is more important in many ways than marketing the brand on the outside, definitely for B2B service companies. So I know that currently the airline industry is in crisis, and we will have 2 interesting airline examples today, but both are from different sides of the pond. Both are interesting lessons, and I'm sure the airline industry will come out of it. It may take them a little longer than before, but they'll come out of it. This is a story going back to the British Airways turnaround in the 1980s. Was a very, very glum phase, dwindling financial performance, workforce is only operational focused, very, very poor brand imagery, downsizing, and of course the privatization, the Thatcherism, all that was causing its own problem, and a new CEO had taken over. And the new CEO decided to do a serious thing about, changing the corporate image. One was to instill confidence and fire up the staff so that they reflect the confidence and they attract more passengers, and they changed the identity of the airline. They started, a new baseline, which was the world's favorite airline, and all the tags were given saying I fly the world's favorite airline. And they then they did also do a bit of TV advertising, and they did this advertising created by Saatchi and Saatchi in London. It's rated as one of the all-time great ads. It's not in great quality, but let me try and play this for you.
Roger, Manhattan. Continue descent to flight level 80.
Roger, Heathrow, descending to SL80.
Manhattan, that's correct. Contact radar director on 120.4. Roger, Manhattan. Continue to 2,000 feet, reduce speed to 170 knots.
Every year, more people choose to fly with British Airways to more countries than with any other airline. In fact, every year we bring more people across the Atlantic than the entire population of Manhattan.
You are here to make right.
British Airways, the world's favorite airline.
In the advertising parlance, this is known as this ad is known as Manhattan Landing. And if you saw that film carefully, you would notice the iconic Twin Towers, the World Trade Center Twin Towers, are shown in this ad. Obviously, this dates before the Twin Towers fell. This campaign was a landmark campaign. Not only did it give new energy to the consumers of British Airways, but also gave the internal people working in British Airways, a sense of pride that they are not just working for any airline, but they're actually working for the world's favorite airline. And so they created a whole set of training to get the turnaround plan working. They created a program called Putting People First, Managing People First. They built a new turnaround team. They built role model, desired behavior among their team, and they made the change visible. You know, a lot of times companies go for just logo change or tagline change. But if you're a service company, you're thinking of a name change or a logo change, it's important that people internally see the change before people externally see the change. So it's important that you align the internal codes with the external codes. And so this culture change program was backed by a very strong commitment to productivity, profits, customer service, better marketing image, and a morale boost for the airline. It took the airline to a very high level. As you know, British Airways went on to become a very, very successful airline, while all the American airlines, struggled to find their feet. Those of you who've flown British Airways know that, they have a special focus on flying people from India. And the one small lesson is, if you're taking a connection out of Heathrow and if your flight out of India is going to be late, you better carry some extra clothes in your carry-on baggage. That's a problem which British Airways has been trying to fix for a long time, and I hope they fix it after this current slowdown. So the model is that when brand expectations and culture clash, the effect can devastate the business. But when the brand and culture match, the effect can devastate the competition, which is what the story behind British Airways and how they got the entire brand alignment right. Okay, now let me go to a story closer home. This was the other crisis we faced in Mumbai some years ago. And this is a video from about the crisis and what happened. And I'll tell you story behind the stories.
That staff was very, very quick and very, very efficient. They got us all up, no panic. Took us through the service section, through a mini labyrinth to the chambers.
All these chefs at the Taj, there's such wonderful, enthusiastic people that they would be all over. And to think that Kazad and Vijay and people like this are no more is a shock.
I must say that we feel rather helpless because we are, in fact, out of the property.
So I know of some friends who were caught in the property, and I know that they were in the Masala Bay restaurant and they heard gunfire, and the staff came out and said, "Please lie down on the floor." They all lied down on the floor, and this is a real story. And an hour later, they were all on the floor, and one of the waiters crawled up to them and saying, "Ma'am, sir, would you like to have a cup of tea?" So these guys were blown. I mean, there's an attack going on, and they said, "No, sir, we got the kitchen going, and we can get you a cup of tea." And they got them a cup of tea. What does it take for staff to behave this way? As it is true that during crisis, human being rises above a lot of their petty worries, but still, he's a banquet manager who says, "My responsibility. I may have been the youngest person, but I'm still doing the job." Karambir Khan, who in fact came and spoke to us at Harvard when we discussed the case, said that if the hotel goes down, I'll be the last man out. And as you know, that he lost his entire family in the fire which happened in the terrace. Hemant Oberoi, a celebrity chef, as soon as we understood the situation, our thought was to take care of our guests. The truth is that all the staff of the hotel knew the exit route. They could have actually got out. This is true of even Oberoi. I mean, they knew how to get out of the hotel. They could have got out. But I know for a fact that a few of the staff members of Oberoi had finished duty and they're standing out on the road and they heard the gunshot and they went back in to say, "Look, we need to help. Our guests are under trouble." What does it take? What does it take to get people to risk their life? And today we are seeing that, right? We are seeing that all around us. Cops, healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, and I'm sure sanitation workers, the electricity department, they're all at work while we are sitting and, going through webinars at home. Obviously, what does it take for people to risk their lives and to demonstrate this selfless behavior? And what can we may be running small companies? What can we learn from a company like, for example, the Taj? So the answer is customer centricity, not in any manual or any official policy. But this Atithi Devo Bhava, the fact that the guest is our God, is embraced by every employee. And this is done through very, very rigorous process in which people are recruited and trained and rewarded. Starts with recruitment. Taj recruits people for attitude, not just skill. After recruitment, and I'm told they also try and recruit people in their Bombay property, at least they try and recruit people who are not very rooted in Mumbai. So they are literally new to Mumbai. And therefore, the only family they will know is the Taj family. Training, 18 months training, a very strong feedback mechanism. They have this concept of sharing engagement stories. And they have the Spirit of Taj program, which is a 3-day program. So they marry the art of hospitality with the science of hospitality. And monetary reward is given at a fairly timely. So, in fact, and I think some of the other, Starwoods and some of the other hotel chains also practice is that every day at the Taj, in every property, they have this Monday morning meeting where all the heads of departments sit and talk, and they have to share one customer story. And this customer story is then flashed, across all their properties, saying, "This is what happened. This customer came in. He had forgotten his walking stick, but he was staying with us for 3 days. So what did our people do? They actually went and bought a walking stick for this gentleman and gave it to him, or they fabricated a walking stick in the workshop and gave it to him." So these kind of stories are shared to make people aware that hoteliering is not just about clean rooms and tasty food and asking the guests whether they want chocolate or vanilla, whatever. A lot more. And Taj embodies this. I mean, I should say so does Oberoi, but Taj does a great job, and they are really #1 hospitality brand in the country. And they have. So we're talking about TCS. As you know, TCS, before it went public, was facing competition from, and continues to face competition from IBM, Accenture, Capgemini, Infosys, EDS. And I know at one point there was also a very strong feeling in Indian media that Infosys will one day overtake TCS. But TCS had a clear goal, which was to be among the top 10 IT services firm by the year 2010. And the company had Mr. Ramadur had taken over the company from Mr. Kohli, and the new management team was coming together, and they had to kind of get this message going through to the entire staff of the company. So the task was to get them to start believing, the classic thing is that, let's say you're working in TCS and you are in the GE Towers in New York, and you get into the lift, and into the lift comes Jack Welch. And Jack Welch asks, which company are you working for? And you tell him TCS, and he asks you, what does TCS do? Can you, in the elevator, within 30 seconds, tell, say, the CEO of your client company, what does your company do? So the important thing is, internally, people have to believe in what the company does. And of course, the external people have to also be communicated the company's stature, respect, etc. And you need to take credit for what you're doing. So the TCS had hired a brand consultant who had gone and talked to their customers, their non-customers, their employees, their past employees, associates, and in a sense wanted to put everything together. And they found out that TCS brand positioning was about delivering on time, on quality, on cost. So they are basically very, very good at delivering what they promise. And this, they condensed it into a tagline called Experience Certainty, which is to respect a commitment that we deliver high quality, on time, and within the budget. And this line was more like an ethos, saying, look, we stand. Suppose someone asks you, what does TCS do? You don't say that I am a IT outsourcing company. We are an IT services company which provides quality IT services on time, on schedule, within budget. That's what we do. And this was captured in a brand film which was created for TCS. As you would have seen, the film talks of various things which you get when you work with TCS. You experience innovation, experience expertise, experience teamwork, experience value, experience globality, all that. Now, it's nice to make this kind of film. It's what 60 seconds or 90 seconds. This never ran on TV. This was basically used in all their customer meets, all the conferences, etc., etc. But more importantly, what TCS did was they said, look, everyone working in TCS has to understand the ethos of the company. And so they created what was called a cascade kit. And every team leader had to then take his or her team through this cascade kit. The TCS way of doing things, the TCS beliefs, values, history. So there was a book of beliefs which was given. Several, 1,000 copies were printed to be given to people. Soft copies are available. This contained quotes from key clients, quotes from key managers. At that time, TCS had 200,000 people. It was cascaded. This presentation was cascaded to all the 200,000 people. The film which you saw is from YouTube. It's in public domain. But this was shown to several clients at all the client events. In fact, the tune which you heard was actually their standard tune. You call their head office, you actually got this tune playing. And all the employees were taught this elevator pitch, that what do you tell your CEO client CEO? If you meet him in the elevator in 30 seconds, what are you going to tell them? Now this, you may say, is all great for a big company, but is applicable to every company. Every company who's in the B2B business needs to understand and figure out what is their ethos, what is their belief, and does everyone in the company believe that? Of course, TCS also did a bit of print advertising in Wall Street Journal and New York and I think Financial Times, and all the advertising which TCS did was focused on customers. So focused on what do they do for their customers, what are the customer case studies. Their website was revamped. They put up a lot of white paper, a lot of interesting customer learnings on their website. And that, again, became a topic which their employees could talk about with their customers. So the company has transitioned from Kohli to Mr. Ramadurai to Chandra and now to Rajesh. The transition, I don't think any company has undergone this level of smooth transition, right? Chandra has taken the experience certainty to another level by sponsoring the New York Marathon. Now Rajesh is continuing the journey. It was TCS was valued, I don't know what was the valuation yesterday, but 100 billion or more. It became the first Indian company to cross the 100 billion mark. And at that time, TCS was seen as more valuable in terms of market cap than all the three other leading players in India put together. So you may say this is for TCS, but remember, these lessons are applicable to you, whether you're a 1 crore company, a 2 crore company, or a 100 crore company. Okay. Now, those, the stories we learned from British Airways, we learned from the Taj experience, and then we learned from TCS. All these reflect on how it is important for branding in a B2B, especially service environment. If branding has to work, it has to be inside out. Branding cannot be taken and plastered onto the surface. Branding has to come, brand belief has to come from within the company. Everyone working in British Airways have to feel that I'm working in the world's favorite airline, and therefore I have to provide that extra service. Everyone working in Scandinavian airline system has to believe that I need to make sure that my customer catches the flight, even if he has forgotten the passport in his hotel. Right? Everyone in Taj has to care for their guests. They are the guests in your house. You have to care for them to make sure that they don't go through any trouble, even if things are completely out of your control. But sometimes, best laid plans go completely awry. And very often, companies get caught in a kind of an inertia, and they don't react well enough. And this is an interesting story. United is probably the world's third largest airline, 754 aircraft, 342 airlines. Very big airline, very successful airline, but they get caught with their foot in their mouth one too often. So here is a story. The year was 2008, and a musician had his guitar broken in the United flight. So let's see what happens. Let's listen to this song he's composed.
Flew United Airlines on my way to Nebraska. The plane departed Halifax, connecting in Chicago's O'Hare. While on the ground, the passenger said from the seat behind me, "My God, they're throwing guitars out there." The band and I exchanged a look, best described as terror, at the action on the tarmac, and knowing whose projectiles these would be. So before I left Chicago, I alerted 3 employees who showed complete indifference towards me. United, you broke my Taylor guitar. United, some big help you are. You broke, you should fix it. Your life just admit it. I should have flown with someone else, gone by car. 'Cause United breaks guitars. When we landed in Nebraska, I confirmed what I suspected. Mike Taylor had been the victim of a vicious act of malice and overreach. So began a year-long cycle of pass the buck, don't ask me, and I'm sorry, sir, your claim can go nowhere. So do all the airlines people from New York to New Delhi, including kind Miss Earlwig, who says the final word for them is no. I've heard all your excuses, and I've chased your wild gooses, and this attitude of yours, I say, must go. United, you broke my Taylor guitar. United, some big help you are. You broke and you should fix it. You're liable, just admit it. I should have flown with someone else, gone by car. 'Cause United breaks guitars. Well, I won't say that I'll never fly with you again, 'cause maybe to save the world I probably would, but that most likely happen. And if it did, I wouldn't bring my luggage, 'cause you'd just go and break it into 1,000 pieces, just like you broke my heart when United breaks guitars. United, you broke my Taylor guitar. United, some big help you are. You broke it, you should fix it. You're liable, just admit it. I should have flown with someone else, or gone by car. 'Cause United breaks guitars. Yeah, United breaks guitars. Yeah, United breaks guitars.
Okay, I can't see your comments, but when, if I were to ask you as a group, when do you think this guy guitar got broken? When do you think he put up this video? What do you think happened? I will get a whole range of answers. Some of you would probably say that, guitar was broken and he complained, and 3 days later, he got angry and he did this music video. The truth is that the guitar break incident happened in 2008. This guy kept complaining. They did not listen to him. And interestingly, a brand went on to benefit from this video. Again, I don't know how many of you are musicians, how many of you have touched a guitar. There is a guitar lying here in my house. The fact is, a guitar company realized that, this guy had broken his guitar, and I think they said, look, we will give you 2 guitars. So Taylor, a guitar company, gave him 2 guitars, and then he composed the song, and he posted it almost a year after the guitar broke, and the video went viral. It got named as one of the top 10 videos of 2009. Mind you, this guy is not a very famous musician. He was a small town musician from Midwest America. So he was flying from Chicago, O'Hare to probably his hometown, right? And what do you think happened? I mean, United could have given him a guitar or given him a voucher or something, right? What do you think happened? And this is what happened. That 4 weeks after the video went viral, United lost 10% stock, lost 10% value. They technically lost, $150 million in terms of shareholder wealth because they ignored one irate passenger. Now, the problem today is you upset a passenger and he goes on social media with the complaint, you're going to be hurt by a lot more than if you're taking care of his problem. And in fact, United seems to be doing this again and again. Again, 3 years ago, United faced the same problem. In fact, I wrote about it somewhere that, instead of offering money for people to give up their seats before they were boarded, they waited for people to board the aircraft. And after they boarded, they announced they needed 1 seat emergency for a crew to fly. And no one agreed. And they had to literally drag this poor chap out. He's a doctor. His nose hit something. It was bleeding. People took a photograph, shared it. I mean, how bad can you get? So we saw 3 or 4 interesting examples of how you can do it right. But this is an example of how you can do it very wrong. So how do companies institutionalize their own system of belief systems and values and what I call positioning? Is that culture must be aligned with brand strategy. Whatever your brand strategy, if it is customer care, your internal culture has to reward that. If it is efficiency, internal culture, internal reward system has to take care of that. Otherwise, you're going to go all over the place. And therefore, your organization culture, the way people participate, the way you recruit people, where you train people, how you reward people, how you share values, and how is symbolic management like storytelling, which you talked about at Taj. Are you sharing stories? Do you have ceremonies? Do you have language? All this has to come together to have a cohesive whole. And finally, brand building is an ongoing process. You and your team, your team is always watching you as leaders for signals. And last 4 or 5 lessons, define the brand in a way everyone can understand. TCS, experience certainty, everyone understands it. Aaj tak, sabse tez, everyone understands it. Second, put down demonstrable metrics for living the brand. What should be done? What should not be done? What should be encouraged? What should be discouraged? Third, create stories. And I keep talking about, brand is nothing but a name which tells a story. Share stories, reward the actors who participate in these stories, and create an ecosystem for measuring the achievement. If you can't measure it, you can't control it. And finally, set up a review process and a feedback loop. So any brand is a living human being. It needs to be refreshed at regular intervals. If you don't do that, you're going to lose traction, right? And finally, again, my last favorite slide, a brand is a story that is always being told, said Scott Bedbury, a branding guru. And remember that brands have to appear valuable, not just to consumers, but to employees, to the corporation, to the intermediate, and to the society at large. In the words of Peter Drucker, the original management guru, the purpose of a business is to create and keep a customer. And the brand is actually the ultimate customer glue, which will help the customer stick to your brand on the long term. So we are at our 45, 46, 47 minute mark. So thank you very much. And these are my books. You can buy them on Amazon when you have the time. And you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can follow me on Twitter and on Facebook. So thank you very much. And I think today we will have some time for questions. And I think we already have got the questions going. So let me start. How does branding work? Geetanjali, thank you for the question. Is branding is about people thinking good, or is it be fact? 3, is it just perception? What is the brand image and actual product not matching? Okay, a whole bunch of questions there. So one is, remember, everything is perception in world, right? Reality, there's nothing like reality, right? Perception is reality. But important is, you cannot go and say my brand is about customer service, and then you don't provide good customer service, right? You can't say my brand is about efficiency and you don't provide enough efficiency. So you have to start from internally. I think Michael Porter talked about, right? 3 things which as a company you can be. You can either be a very innovative company, you can be an extremely service-oriented company, or you can be extremely low-cost company. You have to balance the 3. So if I'm a low-cost company and I'm providing very low-cost service, for example, take Ryanair or take Southwest, or even in India, take Indigo, right? If I'm a low-cost airline, now I need to make sure that I can't provide extra service. In fact, in the early years, if you remember, Indigo was not giving us hot coffee and tea because they said, look, heating the kettle takes away some amount of cost for the airline, and therefore we're not going to give you coffee or tea. Similarly, look at the innovation. I mean, we call this in design thinking, we call this outsourcing the work. They've made all of us into their cleaners. So they come and tell us in Indigo, especially they tell us, please look for something inside the pouch, please take it out and give. So all this is part of that one ethos that I am going to provide a very low value, a very low cost but high value, efficient airline. So I hope I have answered. I'm not sure what this means. Did the explanation of the lady from Aaj Tak change your response to her? Oh, well, no. Apna bhi dharam hai. So while she said, sabse tez, tell me the price, I'm from the agency. An agency's ultimate service is to the client. And the client has told me, I can't reveal the price to anyone. I will not. So I told that poor girl to try her luck the next day. That interesting question. Thank you for asking. Okay, now Nagraj has gone a little back to say, should we pay a premium for a brand in FMCG? It's up to you. You can buy Chick shampoo or you can buy Dove shampoo. It's up to you. Always when you pay premium, if the brand is true to what it is offering, it will give you something more, right? But is it worth the 100% premium? That I don't know. So you may pay for a Dove shampoo, twice the price you pay for a Chick shampoo. Now, is it giving you twice the efficiency? I don't know. That's up to you. You have to decide. Okay, Balaji, as country plays branding yield and measurable results other than promoting tourism, say in an increase in investments? Well, good question, Balaji. I think governments are realizing that country branding has to serve many different audiences. I remember the agency, Delhi office worked on a campaign which I think Prime Minister Vajpayee took to the Davos conference that time. And it was about a line we coined called India means business. So you cannot take the incredible India and slap it on to an investment attraction. So you need to, a country brand has to pull in somewhat different directions for different target audiences. You cannot go and say the same thing. For example, God's own country can be great for Kerala for attracting tourism, but for attracting investment, Kerala may have to say the smartest state in India. And technically they are, because they are the most literate. So you set up your industry here. We are the smartest state, and we are the most picturesque state. Okay. There's a specific question Ms. Ramesh Chopra is asking about going from. That's a complicated, specific question. I'm sorry, I don't know enough to answer that. Okay, Kiran Muthi is saying mass media as we know it is long gone. I'm sorry. I beg to disagree. Mass media is still very much there. For example, what you call as digital is really quasi-mass media. You can buy 1 million impressions on Facebook for ₹1 lakh, and what is it? It's exactly like advertising in the Hindu, right? Or in the Times of India. It's virtually the same. Just because it is digital doesn't mean it is highly personalized. When you start going to personalizing, it's extremely expensive. So if you look at India, print advertising still accounts for about 25% of our total ad budgets. Television is at 40%, 45%. Digital is at 25%. But again, in digital, a lot of it is going through what we call programmatic buying on print-related platforms like Times and Hindu and Indian Express. So I think advertising will continue. I do agree that when you're trying to build a brand, advertising is only one leg. You cannot build a brand based on only advertising. Okay. Rashish Rao, I think, has asked one more question about experience certainty was built through campaign. We talked of various clients of TCS who experienced certainty by working with them, whether it was a banking solution or whether it was a racing solution or whether it was a production solution. Okay, good. I think Vishal has asked a flip question. He says, look, this entire internal, external pitch and elevator pitch, is it relevant to B2C companies? I think it is. Even in a B2C company, they need to know what the company stands for. But remember, in a B2C company, the salesman is only a facilitator. It is the company directly communicating with consumers. So the salesman has to know what the brand stands for, because the salesman has to convince the shopkeeper to keep the brand in the traditional general trade segment. So they need to know it's not something. Vishnu Sharma. Okay, yeah, that's a good question. I once tried to answer that. Okay, Rupinder was asking, independent consultants, how do they brand themselves? I think you need to come tomorrow to understand about personal branding. I will try and explain some processes there on how you go about doing your personal branding. Wow. Okay. Saptarishi Bakshi has asked a very, very, very interesting question. We discussed this in what we call services marketing, which is service failure and service recovery. Researchers said that in any service industry, there will be service failures. The most important thing is how good is your service recovery. Now, in fact, even apparently, if a customer uses a particular service, let's say a hotel, and he has a good service and he walks out, chances are he'll go back to that hotel 70% of the time. Okay, not 100%, 70%. Suppose he goes to the hotel and he goes and he finds that the kettle is not working, and he calls the reception and his kettle is not working. He says, sorry, sir. And they send someone, and within 5 minutes, there is a new kettle in his room. Now, there was a service failure, right? There was a service failure because the kettle was not working. But look at the service recovery, that within 5 minutes, they managed to send a new kettle to his room. Now, researchers said, and they've conducted these experiments, researchers said a satisfied customer comes back 70% of the time. A customer who's undergone a service failure, but who has gone through a positive service recovery, goes back to the hotel 80% of the time. In fact, it's more than 70%. Now, the same guy whose guitar got broken, if they had just replaced his guitar and told him, guy, sing a song about us, whenever you feel like it, he would have probably sung praise of United and the great service, and United would have got extra. So the point is, if you're in the service industry, please be ready. There will be service failures. What you sell will break, or something will not work. But your staff have to be trained that how quickly and how well do they do the service recovery. The better they do the service recovery, in fact, it improves your chance of getting the same customer back. Okay, Nimit Jain, that's digital and social media is there. All of us, including me, we are learning new things on how to handle digital, how to handle social. And this is an ongoing journey. But some of the metrics will continue to be, which is a customer is not going to buy your brand unless he's aware, or he or she is aware. A customer is not going to buy the brand unless he or she knows something about your brand. A customer is not going to buy your brand unless she's convinced that you are a better product than the competition. So those typical stages of customer behavior will continue, and the way of reaching them may not be cinema, radio, TV. It may be digital. It may be YouTube. But we are all learning that. A lot of companies in BFSI have done a great job. Look at HDFC Bank, which has done a fantastic job not in mass media advertising, but they built a brand of highly efficient customer service, highly efficient customer focus, and they do a phenomenal job of what they call direct marketing and digital marketing and stuff like that. I think at any point of time, at one time, I remember they were running something like 100 targeted email campaigns to their customers. So it's a great brand, very well built in the last 20-25 years. Complicated question: how do you equip brand equity? That could be a topic of a book. What are the quick ways a brand that is predominantly a generic product? That is not much. Oh, well, I think, this thing is every product, every service is a generic product of the service. It's up to you to dig deeper and deeper and find out some difference. And once you've found the difference, make sure that no one else is making that claim. There is this old story about this beer company, and I talked about Claude Hopkins in the beginning. So they got a beer account. And Claude Hopkins said, told the client, I want to visit I think it's a brand called Schiltz. I want to visit your beer factory. So they went to the beer factory and they found, bottles coming. They said, where are the bottles coming from? These are bottles which we pick up from the bars and the pubs. And then they are, cleaned here. And he saw them being put in hot water. And then he saw steam being pumped into the bottles and then being washed again. So he said, you're pumping steam into the bottle? They said, yeah, we pump steam to clean it fully. So he said, that's my campaign. And he created a campaign saying, our bottles are washed in steam. The client said, look, every beer company washes its bottle in steam. What is so different about it? He said, but no one is saying it, right? No one is saying it. I, as a beer drinker, never knew about this. So I'm going to say it, and let's see if it works. And it worked, right? So go look deep into your business. Find out what all you offer. Find out something which you offer, which your customer may be offering, but you're not talking about it. You start talking about it, and then you can build success. So thank you very much. And I think we have just too many questions to go through. Once again, thank you very much for joining me. And I think we have another session tomorrow, so hopefully we will try and answer some of these questions tomorrow. Let me close by once again thanking Zoho for giving this platform to IITMAA. Thank Lata for organizing this, and of course, our colleague Rakesh for helping me learn these new tricks on how to navigate these various online platform. With whenever we come out of it, and I hope we come out of this soon enough, all of us will be experts on Zoho meetings, Zoom meetings, Microsoft Teams, Google Hangout, and all that. and all of us will be champions at attending webinars and participating in webinars, and some of us in conducting webinars. So let me close by saying thank you very much. Stay safe, stay careful, and God bless you all. Thank you very much.